And there's a little bit of housekeeping I'd like to do at the top, if I may. First of all, this event is free, and it couldn't be free without the generous support of our donors and sponsors, the Ohio Arts Council, the Greater Columbus Arts Council, White Castle, the Columbus Foundation, Able, and Fiesel. And then, so we thank them for their support, and I think they deserve a round of applause for making all of this happening all weekend long, all this free content that's being broadcast all over the world. This is incredible. A little bit of housekeeping, though. So this is a presentation followed by Q&A. We're going to have some time for Q&A at the end. You have been automatically muted by the host. That's me. And your video is off. So you're going to be doing all of your communication with the presenters via text. I'll show you how in just a second. And this is being recorded. And as I said, it is being simulcast all over the internet through Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And you can also watch it on the schedule page at cartooncrossroadscolumbus.org. Now, how do you interact with the presenters while this is happening? If you were in the Zoom webinar, well, there's, let me put this in presentation mode so we can see. Okay, so you have the chat client down here. You can open up the chat to have a public discussion, public in the sense that all the other presenters can see it. But then if you want to use the Q&A to ask a question of the panelists for the end of the presentation, based on what they're talking about, a chat box will pop up like this, a Q&A box, and you have the option to ask anonymously. So if any of you are worried about, if you want to retain some anonymity or privacy, you can check that box and you can send the question anonymously. Or if you want to ask questions in a more public way, you can use the chat box. So, or the chat box. So I'm about to hit play on the video. Thanks once again for everybody for being here. We will open up the Q&A in about 45 minutes.
Welcome to CXC 2020. Today's talk is Diamonds and Masks, the adventures of Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti. I first met them in the early 90s when we were all bombing around the convention circuit. And since then, I have stood back and I've just watched their careers just take off in so many directions and to such heights. Jimmy and Amanda are definitely one of comics' favorite power couples. My co-host, let me introduce him now, is Christian Hoffer. Hi, Christian.
Hello.
And Christian and I will be talking to Jimmy and Amanda about their journey through independent comics, self-publishing, and mainstream comics, from Archie and Painkiller Jane to Harley Quinn, from the drawing board to movie sets. Welcome, Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello.
All right.
Good. Hi.
Great. Good to see you.
Yeah.
It's great to see you.
It's good to get a little time off the yacht to get down here and talk to the regular people.
Yeah.
Good.
I can tell you really need to eat some spinach. That's what's happening.
Oh yeah, I do.
So we've had a lot of fun while we were setting up and getting ready to go talking, and this is good. I have a feeling this is going to be a fun interview. So I think our first slide is a picture of Supergirl. And the reason we picked this, Amanda, is because your art style is so, I mean, it's fun. It actually has comedy elements to it. There's personality in every drawing. And you do good girl drawings, or I mean, female drawings. But the fact that in the next slide, we have Painkiller Jane, I was like, these two pieces show you could do, here's this woman who's like, this really rough and tumble superhero badass, and she's all bloody and beat up, and yet we just saw the opposite of her. I mean, Painkiller Jane is definitely a little morally questionable. I don't know what her morals are like, but yet you could do Supergirl, who's the moral standard, and then you can do these other things, and that happens all throughout all your career. Well, go talk about that. Where's your desire? Where did you learn to draw women, and why? It's so clear that you like to draw them.
Yes, yeah, I do. I mean, it's fun. I think you know, growing up, you know, every day you look in the mirror and you see, you know, who you are. You're like, you know, and when I was little, I was a very girly girl. And, you know, I think, and it's one thing that I used to talk to Jimmy about, and sometimes to like say Adam Hughes about it, you know, if you're an artist and you see your face every day, you sort of memorize the lines and everything, and you get kind of good at it. And I think a lot of like guys who draw superheroes, you know, first when they're very young, they start out drawing, you know, what they want to grow up to be. And that's the same for girls or anybody for that matter. You know, it's like you imagine yourself as some sort of a superhero or a super, you know, like a character, a comic book character. And you're like, well, this is my fantasy, I'm going to draw it. And you get really, really good at that. And then, you know, from there you sort of expand, you know, your repertoire, and you get good at drawing, you know, different things, like, you know, things that you really love that you haven't practiced a lot at. And then you, you know, when you actually start doing professional work, you have to sort of draw stuff you don't want to draw. But I've always loved drawing art and good girl art, and, you know, just I really like doing, you know, the female form, and especially faces. And it might have come from watching a lot of princess movies when I was little.
That makes some kind of sense. Well, there's a whole school of it's called good girl art, and it's mostly you know, just sexy young women and stuff.
Yeah.
But it only goes back to like the Disney artists. Actually, I think is where the term got coined.
Oh, is it? I did not know that.
Yeah,
okay.
I think Freddie Moore was the original good girl artist, and Bruce Timm. Yeah, is it Bruce Timm that does the drawing? Yeah, Bruce Timm does that kind of stuff too.
Yeah,
but it's I mean, it's done out of love and admiration. It's not really in any way misogynistic or.
No, it's like, yeah, it's like you love like the female form, you love the female personality, you love, like, you know, it's just like, it's when you're really, really, you know, like you look at some of the 40s pinup girl art, and you can tell that the best artists injected not just sexiness but personality into it, you know, and you can
do that
personality, and that's what I've always strived to do, because, you know, I think that the whole package is sexy or cute or fun, or, you know, it's you want the whole package. You don't want just like a, you know, an image. You want a feeling along with it. So that's something that both of you do in your writing as well, is you give these characters a life outside of being a superhero or being an action hero. They eat sandwiches. They do all sorts of things. I think we found I'm sorry. I think we found this hilarious picture of, I was trying to find like a Vampirella, and I don't know where that is in the Thing jersey, but so this is here she is eating a sandwich. Oh wait, no wait. But I found this picture, and I assume this was an unused cover. I don't know. No, it got used. We actually
it's a splash
that
page.
one is a splash page, and we got in so much trouble for that, because I had been, you know, doing Vampirella. Jimmy and I, you know, we're working on Vampirella for like a few years at that point, and I'm like, Vampirella is always so grim and so gritty and so dark, which, you know, I mean, it's Vampirella. She's kind of supposed to be. But I'm like, you know, I told Jimmy, I was like, let's do Vampirella like you don't always see her. Let's, like, you know, let's show a day in her life where it's not all, you know, like trying to save the world from the vampire hordes. You know, let's like do something a little different. And we did. And
yeah, that story, she actually, I remember she eats a demon, but the demon ate a bunch of Halloween candy that had like a laxative in it.
Yeah, like there was an angry neighbor that had put laxatives in his Halloween candy because he hated kids.
He didn't like the kids.
And
she ate
it. Like,
Yeah. Anyway, so that's how we.
look
we
at, I mean, look at her outfit. She took her costume off, and it's like 3 pieces of ribbon wrapped around her legs. That
well,
and you actually
Paul Mount's detail with the tan lines of the costume would be great. You know.
I mean, that piece
my
of
gosh.
artwork really answered the question for me. Like, you know, I remember when rompers were a thing, and like one of the questions I asked my wife was, how do you pee in that? And she's like, oh, the entire romper has to come off. And it's like the same exact thing. You don't think about these things.
Yeah.
And, you know, that piece of art I absolutely adore because there's just this very subversive element to it. I mean, Vampirella is still as sexy as she ever is, but at the same time, she's doing a very decidedly like unsexy thing while not like minimizing or demeaning her at all. And you know, that is like, you know, I've been a fan of your art, Amanda, for basically since I started reading comics. And you know, that is one of the things that's always struck me about it is you find a way of showing these, you know, these characters as, you know, fully functioning, you know, people. They're not just these idols or icons. They're living, breathing people, you know, who occasionally eat a demon filled with laxative and then have to, you know, take care of that.
Yeah.
Oh my God! How
I
did
mean,
that?
that's the thing about it is I was like, okay, you know, it's like we know the sexy girl now. Now let's see the sexy girl doing something not so sexy because that's, you know, that's real. You know, it's like I always want to like inject the reality into the fantasy just because it makes it that much more fun. You know, like you know, like undressing to go to the bathroom. Sometimes, you know, you get the onesie, you got to take the whole thing off. You know,
a lot of guys learned a lot.
Yeah, it's like this is we're blowing some people's minds right now as they're watching it.
And we also found a picture of your Betty and Veronica cover, but it was a twofer. I found this with Barbie.
Barbie.
So that was one of your early jobs. It's a Betty comic.
Did you do that Betty cover?
I did not do that Betty cover.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But
it looks like Dan DeCarlo.
Oh my God!
Right?
Did you do the Barbie?
I did the Barbie one. Yes, I did do the Barbie one, but I did not do the Betty one. That's awesome.
Yeah, they wouldn't let Barbie show that much butt. They wouldn't let that much Betty's butt be on the cover.
Yeah, Betty's that's Dan DeCarlo. I'm surprised you drew that.
I think
there's I can't see.
Oh, there's another name.
Too tiny.
Yeah, I think there's a name on the bottom.
It's funny because I was gonna say I'm always like one of my favorite things to do for comic book covers is homage covers. But I always like to put like a weird twist on it, like like Harley.
Right.
You know,
like The Shining.
Like The Shining.
Yeah.
Or the one where the sailor character that
the Popeye, the Kurt Swan.
It wasn't Kurt Swan. It was I'm blanking. I'm having a brain fart.
It's better to have one than
to keep it in.
Yeah, don't.
Anyway,
dangerous.
But anyway, it's like Superman is in the phone booth and he's being attacked by the really strong sailor dude that looks a lot like Popeye.
Right.
And we switched it around and I put Harley in the phone booth. And Harley, because it's the 2000s now, then Harley says, "What the hell is a phone booth?"
Exactly. Exactly.
So, so I'm always I like to do that. And that one, I don't know if that person did an homage to my cover or if I had that cover in my head and I accidentally stole that.
I thought I pulled that off the internet and I thought it said it was from 93.
I just found it. It's Dan DeCarlo. Is the artist. And so Betty was September 93 and the Barbie fashion was March 94. So those would have been coming out, just to
really
the around time, pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Another mystery solved.
We did it.
Dan, I'm a huge Dan DeCarlo fan, so it's entirely possible that I saw that and somewhere it stayed in my brain and I ended up using it on a cover.
And Dan, when he penciled it, he would draw everybody naked first.
Did he?
Yeah, and then he would clothe them as he was finishing the penciling and inking them.
Oh,
I'm never going to look at those covers the same way ever again.
And that Betty cover is pretty, revealing.
I was
Archie
impressed. I was impressed. And when I thought that Amanda had drawn it, I was like, she gave Betty, kind of a good little bottom. And Barbie is like a Barbie doll. There's
Barbie, they made me. Yeah, Mattel was very, very strict. They wanted Barbie to look like the doll, and I'm like, I don't think this is healthy. But that's you're doing it for it's a licensed thing for a company, and you have to draw it the way they want it. So I got to tell you, I'm really, really flattered that you thought a Dan DeCarlo cover was me. I'm incredibly
flattered. You have a style that is that it's like in that I'm that way too. It's sort of like it's a little cartoony, but it's also realistic. And so I could see you switching to that. So I bet you, Jimmy, when you and Joe Quesada were doing event comics, that's what I remember when there'd be events that somehow we'd both be at. So I can't remember. Did they used to have like little gatherings at Comic-Con? I don't remember. But
I think we wound up, so when we were both starting, it was a little smaller. Yeah. So we wind up in the same places. Now everybody's all over the place, So I think plus, you were coming out with your book, we had our book, and
we were both self-publishing.
Yeah, so we had Billy Tucci Billy was near us, and Brian Polito was doing his thing. There was a lot of excitement those years, because
there was a lot of energy.
People were stepping out and doing their own thing. So it was a fun time. I mean, it definitely. I'm glad it's over, but it was a fun time.
It was really fun. Yeah, San Diego was, and it was easier to find your friends, 20 years ago.
Yeah, before the movie studios got it.
You're right. Everything was all in one place. Like you'd go, everybody stayed in the same hotel. So I guess if you just went down to the lobby, you'd run into everybody eventually.
Absolutely.
We have a picture of Ash. So.
There he goes. Yep.
I got to say, man, I mean, you inking Quesada is. It makes me. I want to eat that. It is food. That is food.
It's funny because I use a brush on him, and
really, and you don't usually.
And I notice everyone else that inks him now uses pens or thin lines and pens. And I come from this school, like I learned how to ink. Actually copying Jack Davis and copying Frank Frazetta when he did pen and ink work, and Al Williamson and. So I learned to ink from those guys. And the thing about those guys were always like, got to make it big and bold and, juicy looking. It should look flowy and everything. And I think we lose a lot of that in some modern art. I think a lot of it has a very dead line because they're waiting for the color all the time. Mm. And I always assumed, I was taught to ink that the colorist might or might not make it look better. So make it look great in black and white. And
I agree.
So I've always done like a heavy duty separation and heavy inks on Joe. Like I said, I did Joe's. When I ink Joe, it's like, he would give me a line. I go, okay, I'm going to go in there and make it, blow up in 3D. And he's like, do whatever you want. And but I definitely learned. I even had a personal class by Frank Frazetta taught me how to do hair with a brush.
What?
And
what?
Yeah. So, I mean,
no, go back and let's hear about that. Let's hear about that. First of all, how did it happen? And then where did it happen? And how long was it?
I went with a couple of friends. We went up to the Frazetta Museum in Pennsylvania, and Ellie, his wife, was there, and she opened it for us. She gave us a tour. And she, of course, listening to my accent, she's like, "You're from Brooklyn?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." And she goes, "Oh, Frank was from Brooklyn." I said, "I know." And she goes, "He's been down a lot lately. You want to come by and visit him, maybe cheer him up?" And I'm like, yeah. So I went to the house, and Frank got knocked over, took out a big thing of High C. Remember High C? A can of High C, and opened it up. And we had some High C, and then
that's some High C.
Yeah, and he showed
nice
me
detail.
Yeah, and he had he showed me his stickball court he had in the backyard, and he talked about Brooklyn. And I had some inking stuff, and he goes, go in my closet and pull out some pages. And I opened the closet, and there's a stack of pages like maybe 3 feet high, and it's all his black and white work, all of it, right? And he goes, now let me show you the secret to doing hair. And he would put a little ink in a watercolor thing, and then he'd get some water, and he says the secret is to thin it out so it kind of rolls off your brush. And that's why everything looks like it's flowing in my work, because I thin out the ink a little bit. He says, I don't worry about resale. I don't worry about how it's going to look. He goes, print's going to pick it up as black or dark gray, but the hair, thin it out and then just go in there and flow. And he was showing me how to do hair. And I was like, this is before we had cameras on our phones. This is before all the internet. It would have been the greatest YouTube video of.
Well, it made a good story too just now.
Yeah.
So do you still ink hair that way?
Yeah, I do actually.
When he inks.
When I ink.
Yeah, you don't ink that much.
I just inked 5 pages recently, but that's the first time I inked something in around 11 years. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, you guys did both really start out as artists. I mean, you as an inker, Jimmy, and
yeah, I was trying to be a penciler, but like I got inking work instead.
Well, you were really good at it, but you also started writing, and you're really good writers, really amazing good writers. And at some point, you went going for it. I'm locking this in. I'm going full time writing. Both of you, really, pretty much, not 100%, but what? Why? I mean, actually, I know why. You're good at it. It makes much more money.
Well,
it's faster.
I think also when you're working on other people's stories, you know, you can't help it. It's like watching a movie and go, God, I wish they went that way instead of this way, or I wish it ended differently, or, you know, a lot of wish changes on things we watch. And we just said, well, why don't we just start writing our own things, and then people can pick on us for a change. And, you know, so we started. But I've always had it. I mean, Ash and Painkiller Jane, we were plotting all those books. And I've always wanted to do more writing. It's just, it's sort of like that, you got to get up the nerve. You know, you have confidence. Like you and Amanda have confidence. They put a pen in your hands, you guys draw, right? There's no thinking about it. You're just like, let me draw. And there's a certain amount of confidence. People with talent don't always have the confidence. So you have to have both things, and I don't have the confidence in my drawing.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Jimmy's really good at drawing. Like, he doesn't have your classic superhero style. He has this really, really cool, almost like, it's like if Mobius and Robert Williams had a kid. And, you know, it's like this great, really cool style. And I'm always like, do something with that. And even if it's like making paintings out of it, because it would be so fun to see that, like on a canvas or in a book, or, you know.
I don't have the I look at her draw and I'm like, I just want to throw the pen out the window and go, all right, let me get back to writing. You know,
I doubt. I think he's exaggerating.
Well, now
isn't it, Indy, Amanda?
Yeah.
I was about to say now, you know, since Amanda, you're doing a ton of writing nowadays too. So maybe you guys, because, you know, I know that, you know, you guys have collaborated a lot together where Jimmy's the writer and Amanda's the artist. Maybe we can flip the script. You know,
that's what he said.
I would draw a story she writes.
Yeah.
It's hard, and Jeff, you know that it's hard to write your own story and draw it, because you're somewhere in your brain, you're thinking, well, if I write 500 horses come over the mountain, I have to actually draw that. So
yeah, I've done that. Yeah. I've actually done that. I had a rule. It was the writer me cannot worry about the drawer me, the artist. The writer can't. If the story is first, and if there's an army fighting, then you have to just figure out a way to draw it. But the artist will be figured out. We'll focus in on like 1 or 2 people in the fight, and that way you can. It saves a little.
You can Kirby it like I'm doing right now. You can have the one guy in the front go, and then 1,000 things behind it. Yeah, it's like Kirby cheating. You know, you can do that.
Well, what about you, Amanda? Why? Because you're kind of. I mean, you're on covers. Are you doing much interior stuff?
Right now, yeah. Right now, I'm finishing up the last issue, where I'm on the last issue of Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey #4.
Oh,
and,
fantastic!
So yeah, I'm doing the interiors for that, and you know, it's fun to revisit Harley, and I'm not that. You know, I'm not as familiar with the birds as I am with Harley, so trying to get a bead on their personalities is a little bit more of a challenge. But I mean, I've been with Harley for so long, I could like recite Harleyisms in my sleep. And birds are something a little bit different for me. So
now, as far as I can make it out from Wikipedia. The Harley Quinn that we see in the movies is really kind of come from your Harley Quinn.
I think
The
so.
one that you both, or you Jimmy wrote and you drew.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is when we got a hold of Harley Quinn, like she had been sort of like pushed and pulled in all these different directions, and I feel like a lot of creators like saw her a certain way, and they were like, well, she should be darker, and she should be more this, and she should be more that. And then when we got a hold of her, we're like, well, she should be like original Harley, the way Bruce, Tim, and Paul Dini created her, you know. And we were like, okay, we can't put her, they don't want her to be back in the jester outfit, which I was fine with because I don't like to draw masks. I like to like see the whole face.
Right.
But I was like, but let's sort of like steer her back towards that, you know, bubbly personality with psychotic tendencies, you know. So really, you know, we were sort of like trying to like bring her back to her true self. And I think, you know, the movie reflects that a lot. You know, both movies reflect that a lot.
Yeah, when they gave it to her, gave her the character to us, they first off, they didn't think it would last long. So they said, you'll probably only have to do it for a year. It's not going to last that long. And so we said, the first thing we said to Dan DiDio actually is, can we do whatever we want? Like, because we want to change the character. He goes, sure, go ahead. And I said, okay, first thing we want to do is take her out of Gotham, because if a book's called Harley Quinn, it should not be about Batman and Joker, and it shouldn't be about all them. And Amanda and I both agreed we don't want to write a character that's in an abusive relationship. So,
or at least, you know, like keep her in the abusive relationship, like pull her out of it and let her become her own person.
Right. So that's what we did right away. We got her away from the Joker. And then we created a supporting cast for her because, again, no matter what character you do in Gotham, you're a Batman supporting character. So we took her out and put her in Coney Island. And then Amanda redrew a costume, you know, started changing the costumes around, and it stuck. It hit something in a nerve.
Yeah,
with
I have to give Chad credit for that. He came up with some really good costumes also.
Yeah, Chad.
Yeah, but I read somewhere that, and I love this, that you, Amanda, said, a woman's not going to wear the same outfit every day.
Right. There is no woman that I know of that only has one outfit in her closet.
Yeah, I thought that's brilliant, and it makes it just feels right.
Well, it definitely we gotta, like, the cosplay is very excited because they can do anything they want and be creative with the costume, and so we kind of set a bar, and we also made Harley responsible for what she does. Like, we didn't give her, like, it wasn't like she had a split personality, so she's this way and that way. Like, she's a very smart person, and whatever crazy choice she does, she chooses to do it.
Yeah, she owns her own bad choices.
Right.
Who came up with the slingshot on the roof, or the catapult on the roof? That is hilarious.
The scatapult? Yeah.
The scatapult.
I love poop humor. I love it. I know that makes me 11.
Obviously, the Vampirella cover is more of that.
I love
she loves toilet humor. I don't know why.
The poop humor, yeah. So
I know somebody gets put on it and they go, why does this thing smell? I also, you did a Wonder Woman thing more recently where she's launching somebody and like Wonder Woman's like, don't kill people. anyway, I'm sorry, I was getting distracted.
Well, with this, you know, with the Harley stuff we're doing, it was like we wanted to make the book fun. And when a book has a tone that's like that, you can get serious stuff in there. You can get some serious issues in there, and you know, you can stop and go another way. And you know, so for us, we were writing the book for each other. We were trying to make each other kind of laugh and want to up each other on the books, and that was the good part about having two writers on one character. Is we kept trying to push the other one, like, let's see what we can get, and we really did. Like, there was stuff in the series, in the 12 issues we did, where right now you could not reprint the book because they wouldn't put it out. Like, that's how crazy. Yeah. But that's funny. when you're like the number 1 or number 2 best-selling book, they let you get away with a lot more. So
that is very cool. That's very cool. I did a book with Tom Snagosky, who used to write Vampirella.
We love
He's a very funny guy, and he just wasn't really writing any comedy. But anyway, he and I did a few stories together in set in Bonneville, and they are far. And it's both. I think since we were both writing it, it really pushed us both. I read it now, and I'm like, I can't believe we did that. Like with Big Johnson Bone, this little like kind of a Pecos Bill type character is born. We actually have him shooting out of the mom's stomach in the air with an umbilical cord trailing back under the blanket.
I remember that.
We were just totally just trying to make each other laugh, and we did go really far.
I mean, goodness. That's the thing that, films don't really capture. Comics all in, and people just say, well, that's what happened. It's great.
Well, I love hearing you guys talking to each other about this too, and I can tell you still do make each other laugh a lot. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Can we go back in time for a second and talk about Marvel Knights? I was always fascinated by that. It was clearly a successful move by Marvel and you and Joe. How did it come about? Did they call you, or what happened? How did that happen?
So Marvel was in Chapter 11, and books weren't selling. As a matter of fact, at the time, they were canceling Punisher, Daredevil. They were canceling like a stack of books. And I got a call from Gareb Shamus, who said he talked to Joe Calamari, who was the president of Marvel at the time. And Joe would like to talk to me. And I think I brought Joe with me. Joe and I both went up there, and we sat with him, and they said, hey, how would you guys like to maybe take a couple of our books on, edit them yourselves, and work out a deal? And Joe and I said, well, if we do that, that's like, it's going to take our time away from everything else. So you have to make it worth our while. And then they made us a deal, and they said, well, what characters would you want? And we said, well, obviously right away, what are you canceling? And they said, well, we're canceling Daredevil and Punisher. I said, all right, we'll take those two. And we both wanted Black Panther, because I've been a Black Panther fan since it's Fantastic Four. And we both wanted Inhumans as well, another Fantastic Four characters that we thought, well, these are all like diverse characters. Let's have some fun with these. And they gave us like a time frame. They gave us a budget, a time frame. And the last demand we had was Joe and I want an office in the Marvel building. We wanted the penthouse. So
what?
Yeah, they gave us, it's like a little penthouse. It's like a 3-room thing, but they gave us the upstairs. And Joe, at this point, we knew, Joe and I both knew that like they were going to experiment, with us. Yeah. And we've been doing like little favors for Kevin Smith in some of his films, doing some art. And then also we were in Chasing Amy and stuff like that. And so we called up Kevin to see if he wanted to do Daredevil. We wanted Garth and Steve Dillon to do Punisher out of the gate, but they weren't available. So we went with Tom Sinowski and Chris Golden and Bernie Wrightson, good friend. And then we took Inhumans with Jay Lee and Paul Jenkins. And then, of course, Black Panther, we got my high school buddy, Mark Texera, who got me into the business, and Jim Owsley to write that. So we put together these teams that we thought, well, they're all friends of ours, and they all love these characters, and we're going to spend a little extra money on the coloring. We're going to do full computer coloring, and we're going to show Marvel how it should be done. That was our arrogant, guys in their 30s going, we're going to show them how to make comics. And
well, they were a little lost. They had
they were a little lost.
Toys, and they weren't. None of the movies were working. And
the editorial didn't love us because we were outsiders coming in. So we did everything we could to be nice to everybody. But it was an interesting time, and we wanted to launch them all in 1 month because we figured one a week. And then if we can hook everybody, they'll keep buying those 4 books forever if they come out one, each week of the month. But we did something that nobody was doing back then. We went and we booked a lot of TV shows, and we did a lot of press. And Kevin Smith was on Jay Leno, I think. And we went out and we did morning shows in New York, and we talked about comics when nobody was really talking up comics. And up until that point, I think the only Marvel movie was maybe Blade. There
were other earlier Marvel movies,
the Corman ones.
I think Blade was successful,
right,
doing well for
them. So nobody was thinking of Marvel as movies, back then. So And with Black Panther, you know, we went and created some characters. We blew up the premise with Black Panther, Daredevil. Again, with Kevin, we had this very religious theme, which always has something to do. Matt always has some kind of involvement. And we just had fun. And
your Black Panther, that's where his warrior bodyguard,
yeah, the
women bodyguards.
Dora
Milaje. Yeah, Joe and I actually came up with those characters.
What was that? What's that name? Where did you get that?
Oh God, we probably found it in some book somewhere and then swiped it.
Yeah.
I don't even. I got to tell you, I don't even remember
that Jim came up with it. The name of it, but I think that you guys had put your heads together.
Jim was the guy that reminded us that we created those characters. As editors, we would just here's what you got to do this, do that. We had something at stake. We had to prove that we can do this, and we never imagined it would be that big. We
right.
just. Nobody plans on that. You hope, but we just hit the right note. I think a lot of fans said, these people love these characters and look how cool these books are. And that was always the recipe for good comics. I think Marvel lost its way for a little bit. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
No, they definitely did. And you got them back on track. I always felt like it was Marvel's with Busiek and Alex Ross and Marvel Knights. God, that saved him. And I didn't want you to save him at the time. I was like, stop helping them.
If they didn't spoil us and throw a ton of money, we probably wouldn't have saved them at the time.
Well, now I don't think that way anymore. I didn't really think that way completely, but
I would like them to thank me better. I would like to have a thank you in at least one film or TV show on the bottom in the little credits. I'd like a little thank you somewhere down the line.
Yeah. No. Amanda, you have two art of books. Two. Yeah. There's the art of Amanda Connor, and then there's the DC book of amazing art of Amanda Connor.
There's two DC books now. It was so nice of them to do two art of Amanda Connor books.
But there's an earlier one that wasn't DC.
Yeah, there's two of them.
Jimmy's got it somewhere.
I got it somewhere. It's on the shelves.
It was so kind of them to say, hey, we want to do an art book about you, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool.
Hey man, I mean, people would be happy to get one art book done on them.
Yeah,
you got two. That's amazing.
I got two out of DC, and then Graffiti Designs, the company that you see at San Diego that
does the t-shirts.
That adorable couple that we love so much. They were like, an art book. Okay, sure, and they did a really good job on it.
Yeah, Bob is he's very picky. He sweats over the end paper.
All
the materials.
Detailed sweater. Yeah,
we love them both. They're both great.
Yeah, I love them both too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we went way out of my order, so I got to see what we're doing. Hey, Christian, do you have any questions you want to ask?
One of the things that I want to talk about is my favorite collaboration of you, the two of you did for Wednesday Comics. You did that Supergirl story, and I think that honestly, and I've read way too much of your guys' comics, and I mean that in the best possible way. But that is honestly my favorite, and it's just how the heck, how did you get involved in such a, I don't want to say strange, but such a non-traditional project, and then to come up with just such an amazing, concept, which is just Supergirl taking care of the super pets for a day. What happened? What is even going on with that?
I'll tell you, it was Mark Chiarello.
It was his special project.
Yeah, so Wednesday Comics was all Mark Chiarello, and I think it was Dan and Mark said to me they wanted to get Amanda to draw something, and they said to me, "Could you draw Could you write an all ages story?" To me,
because they were very dubious about Jimmy being able to do an all ages.
Yeah, they were not and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "That's easy," and they're like, "Are you sure?" Because everything you do is, and I'm like, I can do in all ages. And as a matter of fact, if we do get Supergirl, it's going to be a younger teen Supergirl. It's not going to be maturing Supergirl, and it's especially with Amanda drawing it. Amanda can actually draw someone that's the age they're supposed to be. Like that's, and Jeff, you know this. It's not easy. Like sometimes some artists, they can't draw kids or they can't draw a certain age and everything.
They just draw tiny adults.
Yeah, they put
Sure.
big heads on little bodies. You know, it's kind of creepy sometimes.
That's why advertising. I used to do a lot of play school advertising, and I had to draw a lot of kids. So
yeah. So we got that, and I said, what's, you know, Amanda loves to draw animals, so I can get, you know, Crypto and Speedy in there, and then I had to put Aquaman in because I had some issues with Aquaman, and if you read that comic again, and what's the guy that I modeled him after?
We had been watching
Rescue Me.
We had been watching Rescue Me, and I was like, Dennis Leary would make an awesome Aquaman.
Oh, God.
You know, like just like angry and frustrated with the world,
Right.
and just like a smart ass, and just like, you know, because the way we saw it was Superman takes care of Metropolis, Batman takes care of Gotham City, and Aquaman takes care of every single body of water on Earth.
The 7 seasons.
Three-
So he's so overworked.
He's
Three quarters
exhausted.
of the planet.
He's exhausted. So there's a scene in it where Aquaman has a shell phone, you know, and like all the fish are calling from it, like they need him to help him, and he's like, I can't be everywhere at once, guys. You got to give me a break. Like he's so frustrated.
He's yelling at fish.
He's yelling
you
at
know?
fish, basically.
Like,
And then Supergirl comes and asks, "Can you talk to my pets?" And he's like, I don't talk to mammals. Like I don't talk to dogs and cats. I talk to fish. And he starts going off on Supergirl, and he makes her cry.
yeah, he yells at her, and she's just like, you know, I was just asking, you know.
Right, but if you read it again, just picture Dennis Leary's voice in that dialogue,
Yeah.
and it takes on a whole nother dimension.
Yeah.
And
I
plus,
actually had to remove the gap from his teeth because it looked too much like Dennis Leary. I was like, all right, let me like not go full in Dennis Leary. Let me just sort of like do Dennis
so
Leary-esque.
I don't think anyone expected our Supergirl to be anything special in Wednesday comics. And then as Mark started getting it, he goes, "This is so much fun." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "We know how to do fun. Like, what do you guys think?" Like, and you know, you realize that, Jeff, right? People say, "Oh, well, you just do this and you can't do that." And
No,
so
people think I'm only I can only draw kiddie stuff.
Right.
Right. They
Which is
obviously
not
Even-
true. Yeah.
I haven't read your other stuff. That's why. But,
Right. Yeah.
you know, but like I said, so I had a bit of that with the writing, because I think right before that I was writing Deadpool and Punisher and everything. So they're like Supergirl and the Super Pets. But again, when you have Amanda, you know, you're only as good as your artist. So I had Amanda drawing it, and so we were happy with it. That's for sure.
It was fun. It's like when I finally, especially with Power Girl, I started feeling really at home with Power Girl because I'm like, all right, this is sort of fun. It's not too overly angst ridden. It's and I think we were doing Wednesday comics while I was doing Power Girl, so I was getting no sleep at all. But I was having so much fun because I was like, boy, I really like this stuff. It's like not dark and grim and gritty. I'm enjoy. I know how to do the grim and gritty, but I enjoy like the fun, goofy stuff the most.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
I think that's a key element of the comics you guys do together or separate, and that it's fun. Either it's fun with guns and violence, or it's fun with, you know, eating sandwiches and not getting enough sleep. I mean, they're real characters, and I really think you hit a peak with Harley. I mean, all these things have just come together where it was just a perfect storm. And congratulations on the success of that character too.
Thanks.
So much.
We're really happy to be finishing up Harley and doing our own thing. That's the future. We're doing our own thing. So
yeah, we're gonna
really.
We're gonna be asking it for a quarter of your booth at San Diego at one point.
Right.
And we're gonna be stupid in there going, "Yeah, come on."
Oh man, that's actually really exciting news. I like hearing that. Any time frame on that, or you just start?
I'm not sure because I now that I'm in my 50s, I have to rearrange my work schedule. I can't, like, ever since the Kubert school, I've been pulling all night. Like the way I work is I just like, for some reason, my brain really starts getting going at around 10 p.m. and I'm cranking at around 2 a.m. and then I don't get into bed until like 5 a.m. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm starting to physically feel it. I'm like, what is that squeezing sensation in my chest? Oh, back to sleep.
That's me, actually.
Could I ask you, how do you take care of your carpal?
I haven't had any problems.
I mean, you don't do anything to prevent it or to be careful?
She slaps me around once in a while.
Yeah, well, that makes the hand go this way instead of that way. So yeah, it exercises it.
Yeah.
No, I actually every once in a while I'll like pull a muscle in my thumb and I'll have to wear a brace.
Yeah.
And
I actually got
carpal
tunnel at the end of bone. Yeah, I had to wear. I actually went to a doctor because Vijaya came in the room and saw me. I was writing the script for the Shazam book I was doing, but I couldn't close my hand on the pencil, so I stuck the pencil through a tennis ball so I could hold the pencil.
Oh my God!
Well, Vijaya came in because I just thought I was tired, and Vijaya came into the room and goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I can't close my hand, so I'm writing the scripts with this tennis ball." And she was like, "Stop!"
God bless her, man.
So 6 months I couldn't draw.
I think eventually it was a basketball. Right?
Yeah, right.
Ball,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I haven't had issues with carpal tunnel yet, but I tend to really hold my pencil way too tight. I like to boast like the biggest
pencil
writer's bump.
Yeah. All right.
I have like a really
look, yeah, you got
or artist bump in my case. But yeah, my mom's always like, stop holding the pencil that tightly, and I'm like, I can't control myself. And if I like think of it, I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just thinking about holding a pencil. But once I start getting back into what I'm doing, my brain just I clench again. So
that is a real thing, though. That I don't people that don't do this for a living, they don't realize the hours can get unbelievable. I used to work a deadline. I could work 20 hours a day and just take a nap in my studio for 4 hours. Go till 2 a.m. and then get up at like 5 or 6 and go just do the whole thing all the way around. I stopped that after Bone. I said, I quit at 6. I get up at 5 now. I work at 5 a.m. till 6. But you could just really live like a vampire at the board.
Oh sometimes. Yeah. And I mean,
she could.
And I totally do. And I'm trying to like rearrange that, I just like rearrange my schedule, or at least make it so that when I'm doing my own thing, I can have a life. Like I can go, okay, I'm going to work. I'm going to put this many hours in, and then I'm going to make dinner and watch some TV and wind down and go to sleep. But I mean, also working throughout the night, you get a lot of stuff done because there's no interruptions.
Yes.
There's no like phone calls. There's no people who need stuff.
No me.
But then, this one suffers. So, okay.
All right. Well, it was wonderful talking to you guys. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us here at CXC. And you guys are amazing. And I'll definitely give you a call when I'm in Key West next time. We'll get together.
It's lovely to see you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what do? Do we just say goodbye and good night? And we haven't done that many of these. So, all right, Jimmy, Amanda, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so
much. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, don't leave yet because we've got Q&A now. Oops. Might help if I turned on my mic. So don't anybody leave yet because we got Q&A coming up. And all right, I'm going to make you the host, Christian. So you are in charge from here on. Everybody has to do what you say.
I've officially taken over the CXC stream. So
Christian, your mic's not on.
Oh, of course my mic's not on.
Sounds like it. I hear him.
Yeah. Can everyone else hear me? It's saying
he's working on it.
No, it's
you can hear everybody else. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Jimmy, Amanda?
Yep.
Good.
We hear all of you.
All right.
All right.
Hey,
there he is.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, I'm in charge of CXC now. Excellent. All
right. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go off to the next panel. So thank you, Jimmy and Amanda, again. That was an amazing presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josie.
We did have a couple of questions, which Jimmy and Amanda were kind enough to answer during the during the video for the panel for the attendees of our Zoom seminar. But I figure we'll just go over those so everyone can hear the answers. First question was, I randomly picked up a copy of Tornado at the Ohio State Fair one year and fell in love with Jordy Burnett. Never to see his work again till he randomly popped up as an artist on Jonah Hex. Would Jimmy talk a little bit more about that collaboration?
Sure. So it's the name of the book is Torpedo, not Tornado. Although I'm sure that's a good book too. Tornado. I'm sure there's one out there. And it was a book published in Italy and Spain and France and most of Europe. And it was about a hitman during the I think it was the 20s in
like I said, 20s or 30s.
20s and 30s in New York.
The gangster eras of.
Yeah, and it was an adult comic, so it had a lot of craziness going on. It's one of my favorite comics ever. And when Justin Gray and I were given the job at DC Comics to write Jonah Hex, we wanted to do like done-in-ones for the whole series. So we wound up doing altogether like 100 and something issues of that. But we hired a bunch of artists to constantly have stories being worked on so we can have the book come out monthly on time. And one of the ones that we I love an artist was Jordy, and we gave him a call. And we got it. We hooked up with Jordy, and we went to Spain and did a show in Spain, and we sat and had lunch with Jordy and his son. And by the time all is said and done, Jordy wound up doing more than 10 issues of the book. There's some of the best comics ever done in as far as art for DC. Why they don't collect them? They're all out of print. They've never been collected other than random trades. And I'm hoping one day to convince them to just do a Jordy Burnett book. I think a lot of people haven't seen those issues, and I think they would really appreciate just to watch a master illustrator at work. I like to compare him. He's like the Joe Kubert of Europe. If I wanted to make a comparison for people who didn't know his stuff, but he's after Jonah Hex, while we were doing it, they felt DC Comics felt that his style was a little too traditional, a little too old fashioned. So I don't think he got any work from DC after that, although he did do a solo book. So, and again, we can thank Mark Chiarello for bringing in talent like that when he was working there.
On DC.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually did. I'm just learning about this now. I know they're not online, I assume, either, right?
Well, I mean, there's I think all of the Jonah Hex books are out of print. I think there's a couple maybe left here and there, but a comic store might have them. And and almost all the trades have one or two Jordy stories in them. So if you flip through them, you'll see like, oh, there's another Jordy story. And but the Jonah Hex book was never a big seller. Like we managed to get 70 individual issues out, and then we did All-Star Western after that. It was never a big seller, but it was one of Dan DiDio's favorite books. So because of that, we kind of lasted a lot longer than we thought we would. And almost every issue had a different artist. So that was either you loved that format or you didn't like it. But they were all done in one stories, traditional comics. You don't have to buy 800 issues to get 4 issues worth of story like you have to do now. So
that run of Jonah Hex that you did, that's probably one of like the most underrated like comic series of the last like 20 years. Like genuinely, it is like to put, yeah. And the Western genre has kind of like largely died out in Western and American comics, and you brought that back, and there's not a bad issue, and like 7 or 8 years worth of comics, which is just so impressive.
Wow.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go to Laughing Ogre and buy some back issues of Jonah Hex.
Amanda has a question.
Is it Jordy Burnett or Jordy Burnett?
If I had to guess, I didn't know
Yes.
that would be I'm guessing it's Bernay, but
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
now that I know that he's from Europe, I'm guessing it's Bernay. But
Well, if
I
he's
could be-
French, it's Bernay, but if
He's
he's
Spanish.
Spanish, it
He's-
might be
oh,
Bernay.
it would be Burnett.
when we met him, he
Is-
spoke French,
Spanish, Italian,
Spanish,
yeah.
but not English.
English.
So it was a great. So at one point we were waiting for his son to come because he was going to translate so we could talk to each other. And we kind of looked at each other, we hugged each other, and then he would just say, Joe Kubert, and I'd go, yeah. And I'd say Mobius, and he'd go, ah. Like that. We did that for like a half hour with every artist we knew. And then his son finally came, thank God, and we were able to communicate. But he was shocked. He was shocked that I didn't know any other language, and I'm kind of depressed about that because our school system in the United States does not push other languages very hard.
Also, your father, Jimmy's father spoke like 4 or 5 different languages.
Yeah, he spoke a lot of languages.
But
so
he said, no, you live in America now. You have to learn how to speak only English.
yeah,
Which I think, is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, when immigrants come here to live in the United States, they tend to say, we got, let's conform with the language everybody else is speaking as quick as we can. So, but anyway, thank you for that. Westerns are a genre, right? And so is superhero movies. And Westerns at one point were as big, if not more, than superhero movies are now. So I always have faith that genres kind of recycle. It just depends on the talent behind everything.
We have another question. After the Painkiller Jane movie and TV shows, were there any other stories or characters that studios came sniffing around to adapt?
It's a lot of sniffing.
There was so much sniffing. So much sniffing.
Not a lot of buying.
No bites, but a lot of sniffing.
A lot of sniffing. Yeah, it's sort of like it's sort of like walking into a dog pound with a ham sandwich in your pants. The dogs are out there sniffing away. But we've sold the Pro 3 or 4 times. I had
for like development.
Right.
That's about it.
Random Acts of Violence is one I sold, and actually it's on Shutter Network right now. That movie's running, so it's based on the comic me and Justin Gray did. That was a bite.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, between Amanda and I, we create a lot of different characters. So everything, and Jeff understands this, right? Every once in a while, they rediscover you again and start looking at whatever you did, and then it chills for a while. Basically, we're here to make
you always go home with that ham in your pants, man.
Yeah, that ham. Jeff, you got to put some ham in your pants, man.
Bacon will work.
Bacon, yeah, bacon's good.
Yeah, bacon pants.
Good.
Looks like
we got a new Harley Quinn storyline.
Looks like we have time for about one more question.
Okay.
What advice would you have for starting self-publishers?
Ooh, it's so different now than when we were young and breaking into the business.
Yeah, rich uncle is great. Like having a rich uncle or aunt that really believes in you, that has no children and millions of dollars. They're great. If you have one of those, I'd say that's a start. But honestly, publishing, if you want to become a publisher, it probably on some level means you shouldn't be a writer or artist because it's a business. So, it's a very complicated business, especially with distribution these days and so many other things involved. So I'm going to say, if you want to become a publisher these days, understand that you're probably going to have to do this 24/7, and you're going to have to work with other artists and other writers. I think doing it by yourself is kind of tough. And you have to have a little money behind you because, even to get a printer, you have to show you have a certain amount of money in the bank to cover whatever they're going to print. So there's a lot
are they talking about being a publisher or just getting their own comic published, though?
I don't know.
I read the question verbatim, so let's go with both. How about just trying to get your comic published?
Go ahead, man.
Oh, well, that's you.
Well, but you're more fun to listen to.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No. I mean, he's the one. Jimmy is the one that you self-publish all of those Kickstarter books.
Yeah. Well, so there's crowdfunding.
So I don't do it. He does it.
There's crowdfunding your book and getting it out there, which is Kickstarter or Patreon. People use different kind of crowdfunding things. But I mean, I want to say everybody should work on their own book. If you have an idea and you're a writer or an artist, you should do it.
Yeah.
The great thing is you have the internet. You can put a page up every week. You can create a website around your character. You can interact with the people on the website. And eventually you get enough pages, you can collect them and then go, you can go to whether you can go to a publisher with it or you can crowdfund it. So there's a lot of ways to do your own comic.
It's very different than when we were doing it.
Yeah, when we were doing it, we were looking for somebody's friend of our dad that had a copy machine in their office, and we'd get staplers and we'd start making our comics. I don't know if you ever did that, Jeff. But.
Back then, I had started up a company, an animation company, with a couple of partners from college, a couple of buddies from school, and did that for like 7 or 8 years. But we were mostly doing commercials, and I wasn't really that into that. So I sold my share of the company to my two partners. And in theory, I was going to get, a little money, and I could take a year and try doing the publishing book. But I also was married. Vijaya had a job, so she made me write down a business plan. I had to go to the library back then. The internet didn't exist. Get a book on how to write a business plan, and writing the business plan actually helped because it forced me to understand what I needed, what I didn't know. It made me realize what I did not know, and I had to figure out how the distribution works, how printing works, and all that stuff. But I did always have Vijaya right by my side, helping me. She finally quit her job and became my full-time partner about 2 years in, but she was always there, and so she was supportive. Also, my partners weren't able to pay me the money until much later, so I was living on Vijaya's salary. So you need to support a network, a good system. But like Jimmy's saying, there's Kickstarter now and crowdfunding and the internet. You can publish in full color. Just put it up there. It's a new era. It's a new age.
It's so easy. Yeah, it seems like that's like a really, really not easy because none of it's easy. It's like, it's like you're like pouring yourself out onto the page, and it takes a lot out of you, but it's really enjoyable. But it feels like, going the internet route and, having a, either a blog that you put it on or actually a website that you put it on and you do it like a serial, it's like, tune in next week for the next page, the next, chapter or something is such a like easy way to do it, I guess is the best way.
Well, it's hard to make money that way. It's very
right.
That's a separate question, right? Making money. Because
in fact, anybody who's watching this is interested in this tonight at 7:00, check the schedule on the CXC webpage. I'm going to be talking to C. Spike Trotman, who does Smut Peddler and and publishes a lot of other people's stuff. And she's done 27 Kickstarters, raised, I think, over $2 million. And she puts that all into all these books that she publishes. And she's going to talk about that tonight. Check the schedule, Spike Trotman tonight.
Yeah, I mean, look, the money part is tough, as an example, everyone that goes to the conventions, remember when you hand over $150 to the guy playing Thor for an autograph, and then you're walking back and you go to Artist Alley and you ask them how much is that comic, and they go $5, and you go, I really spent it on that's one big reason comics are very hard to make money because people just it's not a glamorous lifestyle. Look at us. Jeff is selling it much better than we are.
Oh, absolutely.
Right now,
the tailor jacket and the beautiful,
the sex room. Chair in the corner, whatever that is. Like it's definitely, yeah.
Oh
uh,
man.
He's definitely one day you can be Jeff Smith, and that's what you're gonna have. Look at that. Look at that. He's got a knocked over bottle of champagne on the table. What is that over there?
Oh, it's a holder. It's a fancy holder.
Oh, it's a
like
fancy. Look,
yeah,
look
you
at
have
that.
to keep it sideways so it doesn't
Right.
get air in it.
He says, "I'm not that fancy. I just drink beer." So I mean, So yeah, there's different degrees of success for sure.
And then the dog.
The dog.
Yeah,
Yeah, he rented that dog for this video. It's
Oh man.
a nice greyhound, very Erte.
Yeah.
On that note, unfortunately, we are out of time. So thank you very much, Jimmy and Amanda, for
Thank you.
coming to CXC 2020 in
No
digital
problem.
form. We hope to have you in person one of these years.
Absolutely.
So for those who are still watching, we have a lot more great programming coming up. So stay tuned to our various live streams on Facebook, Discord, and or not Discord, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and we also have our Discord, which is also having some new programming. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.
Hey, bye, Jimmy.